All right, guys, we are in the final installment of common Google Ads questions. This is part 3, and I'm very excited to captivate this part because all this stuff is relevant, but once you have a good understanding and answers and where to go from all of these questions, you'll be able to answer most client and key stakeholder questions and look like the expert that you really are. So let's get into it. What did we cover before? First, we covered how much does Google Ads cost and what should my budget be? We went over live examples. Then we also looked at all the different types of what Google Ads actually look like, and not just your classic search examples, but also product listing ads, display ads, video ads, and more. We went over how we can measure performance, like what things we have to look at to set up performance tracking correctly. We look at how Google Ads compared to SEO. And we also dove into what the average or the best average cost per click is and how to figure that out. So the last few questions, there's 3, and we're going to get into them right now. They're pretty important, and I hear them all the time. So hopefully you guys get some value with this, and let's go right into it. So the first one, can I track my competition? The answer is yes, you can. Now, the most accurate way to track your competition is through the Google Ads platform. There are other competitor analysis tools that do an okay job, such as SEMrush, Moz, SpyFu, and SimilarWeb, dozens and dozens and hundreds of other tools that track different things. Here's the thing. With your competition, you cannot see how much they spend. I don't care what tool says that they can estimate, spend, and they'll tell you what your competitors are spending. I don't see any reliable tool saying that unless you actually have the Google Ads account. So I wouldn't buy into any of that. I've tested a lot of them. You don't get to see what other people spend. However, there are other metrics you can use to evaluate what your competition is doing, right? You can do live ad previews, right? You can actually see whose ads actually come up for different keywords and search term and do some live searches. That's a good classic example of how to do it. But let me give you some more surefire metrics to see from an analytical standpoint what you can see from your competition. So what you can track, the most accurate way to track your competition, at least that I know of at this very day today, April 7th, 2024, is impression share metrics and auction insight metrics inside the Google Ads platform. So I'm going to take you to one of my accounts now. It's an e-commerce account, and I'm going to show you exactly what I look at to see how my competition or how I stack up against the competition. Okay, so currently I'm in an account. This account does have a good amount of data. Over the last 30 days, we've spent 65,000 nearly US dollars in this account. So pretty data heavy account and a lot of different campaigns, a lot of different key objectives, and a nice spending account. So we have some good stuff to play with here. So what I'm going to look at is, if I come all the way over, I'm going to look at these guys here first. I'm in the campaign view window, and I'm going to look at impression share metrics, meaning search impression share, my search top IS, my search loss top IS rank, and search loss top IS budget. These 4 is where I start. What does that actually mean? What do they infer? There's actually one I'm missing on here. It's called click share, but the same principles apply. Search impression share is your piece of the pie. I have other videos that actually go over search impression share and how to best utilize it. But basically, if you think of there's 1,000 searches in the market, and if we own or we're showing 41%, that means 410 of those searches our ad is showing up for. Now, our ad can show up and the user doesn't necessarily have to see it. It can be on the bottom of the page. And that's why search top IS is pretty important too, because it gives you the top of the page, which is more likely to be seen. Now, depending upon campaign type, you'll see that some campaigns here have a search top IS, but other ones, or this one doesn't, and this one does. That very much depends on what type of campaign you're looking at. Shopping campaigns don't typically have a top IS because it's the product placement, right? But they do have an impression share. However, you cannot see in shopping campaigns the lost top IS to rank and lost top IS to budget. You might be able to see some lurch. I'm lurching. I'm combining words is what I'm doing. You might be able to see search lost IS to rank and search lost IS to budget. Note the top is missing from those terms because you can evaluate the same type of thing. But before I get into that, let me just define what these two mean too. So we know this is their piece of the pie. We know this is the piece of the pie, at least at the top view, right? And then these two really tell you, okay, what percentage of search impression share are we losing to either budget or ad rank? And ad rank is bid times quality score. Bid is how much you're paying per click. Quality score consists of a few different things, including expected click-through rate, keyword quality. No, is that keyword quality score? Expected click-through rate, landing page experience. There's something to do with keyword relevance. There you go, keyword relevance. Really those three things. So it's a little more arbitrary. Loss to budget is something that you can just change right on the dime. Search loss IS to rank, bid times quality score. I mean, your bid you can control pretty easily, but the rank usually takes more work to do. So again, I have a whole video about this. If you guys are interested, let me know in the comments, or you could search through my channel. I'll also make it available right up there for now too, so you can see. But these are the metrics that I initially used to evaluate competition, because now I could see, okay, out of the entire market, I'm only showing up 41% of the time. Now, this campaign has a very large spend. It includes a lot of products, and it goes across a lot of different business units. So with that, I don't expect our impression share to be that great in this campaign. The more individualized you go, the better your results, or the better results you can track is. This campaign, which I'm guessing is our name campaign, and it is because it's one of the only campaigns I have a target CPA for. Check this out. We're there 97% of the time, which is awesome. It's extra dominant, right? I mean, 70 to 75% impression share is dominant, but that's extra dominant. And then we're at the top 97% of the time. We're not losing any to budget and very, very little to rank. So those are the ones that I would come in and see right away. Okay, what does that tell me about my competition? That tells me that, okay, there are players in the field. So if I go to a campaign like this first one, let's go to the second one. There are players in the field here. If there's 1,000 searches in the market, I'm only capturing 130 of those. I'm only showing up for 130 of those. And I'm losing, it looks like, a lot to rank. Interesting. So now it tells me, okay, is my campaign dialed in enough? Who exactly, now it leads me to the next question. Who exactly are my competitors? Now, depending upon the campaign type, you can actually see there's a few different ways to do it. And I'm going to go through a Performance Max campaign because it's the most intricate and tricky. Search campaigns will follow suit. Shopping campaigns will too. There's one note I want to go through though, and that is the following. All right, so I just clicked into that campaign, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Auction Insights to actually see who my competitors are. So, interestingly enough, it says you don't have any auction insights because your search impression share is less than 10% in your selected date range or filters. Funny enough, we just read that this campaign search impression share was 40%, but it also goes based on product, and there are a lot of SKUs in this campaign. So that tells me that we don't have enough saturation in any one product to know who our competition is. And there's just too many products in this campaign. So we're going to back out of this one and go into a different one. Okay, so I just went into a Performance Max campaign for this account. And instead of going to Auction Insights actually didn't show me anything. Again, because there's a lot of SKUs in here. But if I go into Insights and I scroll all the way down, I can go do what's called Auction Details. And in Auction Details, I can break out something called Impression Share. Impression Share, I now generate a line graph. And this line graph tells us not only my impression share over the last, 7 days, and I can change this to last 28, but also my top competition, which is nice. I could see by day what their actual metrics are. And then if I scroll down, I see a nice table, and I can see myself and all of my competitors in this space and what impression share they have. So that tells me what slice of the pie they're actually getting. And one thing you could do is if you took your average conversion rate, you can assume your average click-through rate and conversion rate, you could theoretically figure out how many product sales they might have. It depends on how far you want to go into it. It's all speculatory. However, it's good to see what slice of the pie they have on individualized product groups, because then you can evaluate, okay, do I need to spend more money? Do I even want to spend more money? Is it worth it? Is it too saturated? Who do I stack up against? What do I do against them? Let me look at their ad copy. Let me fine tune it, and let me tweak and measure better. So a lot of let me's on that one, but this gives you a nice breakout to see where your competition is, what they're doing, and how they're doing against you. So there's a couple different types of competitor reports. This one I just showed you is Performance Max. I'm going to show you one more that's specific to search campaigns because it doesn't show this line graph information, but it does show things on a table. So let me get into that right now. Okay, so I just went to one of my search campaigns, and the search campaigns, I actually went in right into Auction Insights. And Auction Insights shows me similar information as what I saw in Auction Details in the Performance Max campaign, but I see more things in depth, right? Because it's only specified to one network, the search network, I can see a lot of other things or a lot of other metrics that can help me evaluate my competition and how I stack up against them. With Performance Max, it's a little more difficult because Performance Max goes across all of Google's networks, essentially. So that's why I can get more innate or more detailed information. So I have top of page rate, absolute top of page rate, position above rate, overlap rate, impression share, ranking share, all this crazy stuff, right? What does that actually mean? So I'm not going to go through all of these because I think that would just, you can look up these definitions and they're all over Google Ads. If you want me to go more in depth, just let me know in the comments. But the things that I pay attention to the most is overall impression share. I look at that as like a baseline benchmark because impression share just means an ad popped up on the page. But I also want to look at my absolute top of page rate and top of page rate because the ads at the top are going to get a vast majority, a significant vast majority of the interactions and conversions compared to ads at the bottom of the page. So not only do I see I have a 97% impression share here, but I have a top of page rate of almost 99% and an absolute top of page rate, which actually indicates that I am the first position of a 98% as well. So interestingly enough, I see some of my competitors show up for this, but they're never really at the top. This competitor is maybe 1 or 2 clicks out at the time, but we are owning our top spot, which makes sense because this is our brand campaign. So that hopefully gives you some details about how you can see how your competition is doing. Next question. I can't see my ad. I get this from business owners all of the time. And I don't expect, I mean, it's a very reasonable question, right? And I don't think it's a question that's really going to go away because people, what they pay for, they want to be able to see, especially when they're not as familiar with how tracking works and the actual pulse of tracking of the business. This is a big factor, right? This is a big factor when product sales dip in a specific category. Like if they're ever selling less of one thing, they're going to go right to the ad and say, hey, how come I can't see the ad, right? That will happen all the time. I deal with this question on a constant basis, and it's always a challenge. But here's a few things to consider to help you in your endeavors when explaining this to whoever you want. So, factors to consider: what device are you on, and what browser are you using? So, device and browser matter a lot, especially if you have different bidding settings, meaning sometimes I have campaigns that bid more for certain devices. Like if I'm driving to a very, very good page that converts desktop versus mobile, or that's what the audience is, I'm gonna gear more towards desktop, and you might not be able to find the ad on a mobile device. So there could be some bidding restrictions. Another big thing to think about is device history, meaning have you searched for that product or have you searched for that brand many times and have not clicked an ad? Because Google Ads is going to go based off of your behavior. If Google tracks your device, which Google tracks a lot of different devices, especially if you don't have your privacy settings altered in any way, if you go and look for that product and you don't click the ad and you do that a few different times, Google is going to stop serving ads to you. Google says that each individual user gets a different ad experience, and that is mostly true based on browsing habits and habitual patterns. And as machine learning and artificial intelligence take over, as they already have in these types of auctions, then that's what exactly is going to happen. So not every user's ad experience is going to be the same. I'm going to say that here. Not every user's ad experience will be the same. Why? AI, machine learning, etc. So you got to check out device history, bidding adjustments, time of day, and then also I'm going to actually move this one to the top. It's okay. I'll keep it there. Target area. So sometimes business owners forget or they don't exactly know what the target area is. So if they're outside the target area and they search for an ad, it won't show up. Most likely, depends on your presence or interest settings, which I've also made videos about, and I can put that video up here at this time. So let's say you verified all that, right? Those are the first initial questions to ask. Here's the things to look at. The ad preview tool is what Google says to look at first, right? Google says to look at the ad preview tool. And I actually did a Gemini ask on this. And I asked, not calculate target CPA. How come my Google ad isn't showing? So we're going to go through some of these areas. But ad preview, interestingly, they didn't get to ad preview at all. But ad preview is like the unbiased Google browser version where you can actually see your ads. The problem is it's actually in the Google Ads account, and clients, at least the ones that I've dealt with, don't really like this answer because they can't validate it themselves. They have to trust you. So, and here's the thing. I've seen ad preview be buggy as hell. So I don't know if I 100% completely trust ad preview tool, but it is something to look at right away. You can switch between mobile and desktop devices, audiences, locations. It is good, especially if you're running ads in a different state than when you are and you want to preview some things. It is a good go-to, but again, you can't 100% trust it. Some other things to look at least internally, you want to make sure the campaign status is live, right? There's no disapproved ads, disapproved keywords, pause keywords, make sure the campaign actually served impressions, got some clicks in the last couple days, and is overall spending money. And if all that's good, well, then the next thing I would look at is your target area to make sure that the area actually fits the question in question. Like if you're showing ads to someone in Phoenix, but the other person is in, I don't know, Mesa, I don't know if Mesa's a part of Phoenix. Scottsdale, no. Texas, whatever. Let's say the other person's in Texas and you're showing ads to Phoenix in Arizona. Well, then no wonder why your ad won't show, right? So you have to make sure the target area is good. Another one, too, which we already covered, is impression share metrics. So these are the things to look at when diagnosing, right? Sometimes maybe you're not spending enough. Maybe someone is outbidding you, so on and so forth. And that's where those impression share metrics come in. And here's what you can do that I found to be very, very helpful. When I'm really going in and I want to see where an ad is, I'm going to check multiple devices. I'm going to check multiple browsers. I'm also going to check check different internet connections, meaning Wi-Fi on your mobile device, Wi-Fi off. See if that makes a difference. Sometimes it does. Can't quite explain why. I would imagine it's something to do with IP settings, but that has sometimes made a difference. And then what I would do is do about 10 searches to get some understanding of your ad showing and placement. So I do 10 searches across all those different parameters and vary it up to see if the ad shows it all. And then I take a rough average and go, okay, it looks like it's showing, right? So that usually comes across pretty well. There's no one way to figure it out. There's a bunch of other things that could be adjusting or need adjusting in your actual campaign settings. But that's at least a way to get started and let the client know or key stakeholder know why your ad wouldn't be showing. So if you'd like further assistance with that or want me to dive into anything more specifically, just let me know in the comments and I'd be happy to. Okay, question number 3. This is a great one. What is a reasonable ROI? Reasonable ROI. So when business owners often ask me, they say, well, what's the ROI going to be on this? And it's interesting when they ask me that because we can't really calculate a true ROI. ROI refers to return on investment. And I'll pull up a definition here. I went on Bard and just looked it up. So when I do definition of ROI, ROI stands for return on investment. It's a metric used to assess the profitability or efficiency of an investment. It essentially compares the amount of return you get from an investment versus its cost. So here's a formula: net profit divided by cost of investment times 100%. So I'm going to go through an actual example here because I think it's pretty useful, and we'll walk it down the line. Okay, so let me get into this. ROI, I'm going to tell you this, true ROI, we will not be able to calculate. I haven't been able to calculate any of my customers' true ROI. Why? Because I don't really necessarily know the cost that goes into each product and the cost that goes into each associated business component of that product. For example, I have a rough estimate on margins for e-commerce clients, but I don't know exact figures. Really, you don't need to be 100% exact to at least get something going. The more exact you are, the better. But I just need to know an estimate of what margin is, and I can quickly do some back of the napkin calculations to show what a profitability investment would be. But again, true ROI, like getting that return on investment, you can't really get that because you might be able to show a return, but you don't really know the cost of the actual product, right? Maybe your client or maybe your key stakeholder would be able to share that with you, and in that case you would. But in most instances, I do not know the exact cost. I know approximate margins. And let me go over this. That doesn't mean that we can't track some sort of return, though. So within Google Ads and any paid advertising platform, and really any advertising platform, these are the true ROI metrics you have. For lead generation, you have target CPA or TCPA, which essentially is cost per conversion when looking at columns in Google Ads. That's how much does it cost to actually get someone to submit or a phone call or whatever that lead is, right? That's why defining conversions is so important. Then for e-commerce, we have what's called ROAS, or conversion value over cost in Google Ads terms. So this is the amount of revenue tracked through Google Ads platform divided by the cost of the Google Ads platform. And that will give you a ROI technically of Google Ads, your Google Ads investment. It's a pretty useful number. I've used it so much in the past so many years. It has become more inconsistent as far as tracking reliability, but it's still something good to use. So, yes. So, ROAS, or return on ad spend, is essentially ROI, but only looking at the ad spend. So, I use ROAS projections all the time as my ROI metric for e commerce because we can directly relate product sales to revenue. And lead gen, for most of the time, business owners don't quite know exactly what a lead is worth to them, especially small to medium sized businesses. If you're a large business, you probably know what a lead is worth or have more firepower to calculate that, but or resources and firepower to calculate that. But for most small to medium sized businesses, they don't necessarily know what a revenue value would be for the business of each lead. If you do, great. And I'm sure there's certain industries where you need to. That's why I like Target CPA. So these two are the ROI metrics for the ROI metrics for Google Ads or whatever paid digital ad platform that you have. So now I'm going to go through an example. I listed these numbers out, but I think it's actually better to look at on a spreadsheet. Okay, so handy dandy spreadsheet ready. Let's look. We got product retail price. So this means we're going to sell this product for $100. Our profit margin, approximate, is 50%. So that means each product gross profit will be $50. Okay? So let's say we sold 30 products in a given span of time. Let's say it took us $1,000 to sell 30 products. So our return on ad spend technically is 300% because we spent $1,000 to make gross sales of $3,000. So that is 300% return on ad spend. For every $1 we put in, we get $3 back, or this is a 3-to-1 ratio. Now here's the thing. That's the ad platform ROI, what we call return on ad spend. Now, gross profit, if we start getting into the business calculations, gross profit isn't 3,000 because our margin is 50%. So that means we made $1,500, right? So if we do a gross profit minus ad spend in this example, that would be your $1,500 minus $1,000, you get $500. So from all that work, you get $500 gross profit. Now, to factor in the cost of running the business, the cost of setting up the store, the cost of, your time, the cost of taxes, everything comes out of that 500. So even though this may look like a nice situation on paper, you really need more volume to make it work. Nonetheless, these are the questions that you need to think about and need to answer, or at least have a rough model from to move forward and understand what your return goals should be inside any digital ad platform. Now, there's lots of other complexities that go into it. Again, I'm making it as simple as possible. And with those other complexities, that's why my clients pay me to look at these different numbers, make sure we're on the right track, analyze by product, and do all sorts of different things to make sure we're the most profitable that we can be. And it's a moving target. Always, it's a moving target. But hopefully, this explanation lends some details to what a reasonable ROI is and how to track it. Again, the short answer is it's going to be dependent. It's going to be different for your situation. But again, if you do something like this, at least a back of the napkin or back of the Excel sheet way of thinking about it, you will come into an actual understanding of what needs to happen and defining your goals. Well, okay, guys, it was fun. That concludes part 3 of common Google Ads questions that I get. Hopefully you found it valuable, and I'm really excited to keep making content for you guys. If you have any comments, I love reading the comments, even more than I see likes. I like reading the comments and having a good, healthy discussion, dialogue. about what we can do to better help your situations coming into the future. So hopefully that helps. Thank you guys so much. David Feldman-Makrias. See you later.